Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Deconversion Stories. And today I have the absolute pleasure of chatting with my friend and fellow Canadian, Mr. Abdullah, who you know as the ex-Muslim, or the friendly ex-Muslim, I should say, over on YouTube. And by the way, speaking of YouTube, I have a billion links below where you can find all of Abdullah's really awesome content. He's got multiple formats that he streams on, and also he's got the YouTube channel, and you can stalk him on Facebook and Twitter too if you want. And just look below, you'll see it. There's a bunch of personal websites there as well. First of all, Abdullah, man, thanks you so much for doing this with me today. I appreciate it.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like I was telling you earlier, you know, I've been watching your stuff for quite some time, and I'm a big fan of what you do and what you do for the community and stuff like that. So, but we will talk about the channel for sure towards the end of this. But for most of this, what I want to talk about is how you found your way out of your previous belief system. So kind of take us back to when, you know, you're a little kid and you obviously got indoctrinated, and when those dominoes started falling and you started going, wait a minute, and then you kind of become and I'll say it quite frankly, the amazing atheist activist that you are today.
Yeah. So, you know, believe it or not, I actually wasn't born into religious Sunnism. My family is very liberal. My dad could be described as had a strong belief in God, but was kind of agnostic, and especially towards religion in general. So he very much believed in God, but I was born into this sect. So my mom is Sunni Muslim. She's a mainstream Sunni Muslim woman, but my dad is an Ismaili. Ismailis are like a small sect that are probably like 5 million in the world, 10 million, maybe 15 million, very small in numbers compared to like over the billion, you know, when you look at the world Muslim community, right? So we're talking about like a very, very niche, I don't know if niche is the right word, but very small community and very different belief systems. So Ismailis believe in, it's a very modern religion. So they don't care as much about a lot of the things that most of the Muslim community cares about. Like most of them don't really care about halal food. Hey, it's my best man, P. Nice. Thanks for joining us.
P's awesome. He's always in my chats. So
yeah, he always he comes on all the live streams. I appreciate it, man. Appreciate the support. So so I was saying, I was born into this very liberal sect of Islam, and some people don't even consider them Muslims. Many Sunnis will say, oh, they're not even Muslim, but I was born into this religion. And I consider it was so different from what I converted into, and we'll get to that, that I feel like I converted. I don't feel like I just changed sects. I feel like I had a world conversion, like I was born again or something, whatever you want to call it. Like I said, Ismailism, I used to sometimes go to the Jamaat Khana, which is like the mosque, and sometimes I wouldn't go. I wasn't really into it. I don't know if I really believed or didn't believe much. I wasn't really into the religion, but it was something I grew up in.
Right.
But then in high school, I was
hold on. Abdullah, do you think it was more like just like a cultural thing for you, maybe?
Yeah, I guess as a child, as a young man, it wasn't really into the religion. So, you know, when Ali Dawah comes and he says, oh, you guys are fake ex-Muslims, he's talking about the type of, like, it's like if he was Ismaili, he would be like, you are a fake ex-Ismaili. I was that fake ex-Ismaili, meaning I believed in it, but it wasn't really, I never looked into it. I didn't know all of the stuff. I kind of like knew some stuff, you know, I knew the basics, right? But like if someone was to grill me on all of the beliefs of Ismailism, I'd be like, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? So I was that type of guy. I was like, yeah, kind of, maybe even agnostic a bit. I don't know. Like I wasn't really into it, right? Culturally speaking, I guess I was a believer. But I did believe in God. I thought there is a God out there.
Sure.
And so what happened was when I was in high school, I got to the point where some of my friends had invited me to come join them to pray. Now, Sunnis and Ismailis pray totally differently. Ismailis, they don't have the 5 times prayer that Sunnis do.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So what they do is they pray 3 times a day, and it's not based on the sunrise and sunset. It's just fixed times. It's very convenient. So it's like early in the morning, like I think around 5 o'clock or something, you go for this like very early, like kind of like the Fajr prayer of Sunnis. And then in the evening, you have the 2 prayers next to each other. So it's like
Oh,
after work around 7 o'clock. You don't have any of this problem of having to find a place to pray at the office or wash your face and wash. When I was Sunni, I had to like wash my feet in the sink at the office because you have to wash, right? You have to wash both your feet
yes.
and everything.
Must be clean. That's right. Yeah.
So it's awkward, right? Like doing that as a Sunni. But as an Ismaili, you don't have any of those things. You just like when you pray, there is a ritual prayer, but it's so convenient because it's at those specific times. It's very modern, right? It's just very, very different. And the focus of Ismailism is never about. I don't think I even had to ask my dad about this. I'm like, is there even a hell and heaven in Ismailism? Because I've never heard anyone mention it. It's not the focus. The hereafter, the next life is not. And my uncle told me, like, yeah, I've heard some of the religious leaders, the peers, they talk about it, but like it's not a central focus of Ismailism at all. The focus is more about like being a good person, make sure you pray, make sure you do volunteer work. Volunteer work was a big thing as well in Ismailism. So anyway, so this is the sect I grew up in. And I went from this sect to this like basically you could say ultra orthodox or like orthodox Sunnism, where I was praying 5 times a day. If I like in Ismailism, women do not wear hijab. There's no concept of zakat, which is you give 2.5% of your charity, but there is something else. You're supposed to give 12.5% of your gross income directly to Aga Khan, the leader, the spiritual leader of the Ismailis.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's quite a bit. It's quite a big amount of money, and this pays for a lot of the stuff that like Ismailism. The religious part of it, they do a lot of charity work and stuff like that, but still it's a religious duty. You have to pay this. So when I became Sunni, I didn't do that anymore, but then I started paying zakat, and I even went for Umrah. I went to Makkah, Saudi Arabia to see the Kaaba and go around the Kaaba 7 times and going back and forth, Safa and Marwa. I did all that. And but I'm kind of jumping around, sorry. So basically I had friends in high school. They had this prayer going on, and they said, well, why don't you join us? So I'm like, yeah, okay, let me ask my dad what he thinks. And I asked my dad, he's like, yeah, whatever, man. You want to worship God that way? Like I told you, he's very liberal, right? It's like, yeah, just do whatever you want. Like if you want to do that, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You just worship God in your own way. I think even if I told him I was becoming like a Buddhist monk, he would have been like, good for you, son. Just go ahead.
Really?
Like he was cool, man. My dad was very cool, like very easygoing about everything. I'm pretty sure even if I would have said I'm gay, he would have had no problem with that. Like he was a cool guy, very easygoing, right? And that's one thing I loved about him. So anyway, so I went and I started praying with the Sunnis. And then my friend was like, hey, why don't you read the Quran, right? So started the dawah on me, right? I'm like, okay, I'll read the Quran. Started reading the Quran. And then I'm like, hey, this Quran, it's saying a lot of things that seem to match Sunnism more than Ismailism. And I was like, I even asked my dad, I'm like, hey, what about the stuff that says you cannot pray or you cannot worship anyone except Allah? But I'm like, don't we pray to Aga Khan? Like we ask him, we pray. He's an intercessor, so to speak, right? Sure. He's like in between God and you. So and my dad was like, yeah, Sunnis, they say this is what we're doing. And I'm like, what? The Quran says this is not allowed. And the Quran says this is like forbidden. And if you do this, you'll go to hell forever. Basically like worshipping other than God. So now Ismailis have their own comebacks to this. I'm not saying they don't, but you'd have to, that's what I'm saying. I wasn't the type of Ismaili who knew those comebacks. So I'm like, I was convinced by this. So I'm like, oh, wow. Like, okay, I got to become Sunni. So I became Sunni. I started praying 5 times a day. And then I just deep dove right into it. I started this big website called lightuponlight.com. I started praying 5 times a day. I was praying at the office. I was inviting people to Islam. I was even doing a few like Jummah khutbahs, meaning the Friday sermons, in like not in the mosque, but like in like at the university and stuff like that. So basically, you could say,
did you get a room to do it, or did you do it like in a hall or something?
Exactly. Like yeah. We had like a room, and I even did one in high school too, which is funny because I didn't know anything at the time. They let me do it because I was so motivated. I guess I was very excited about doing all these things. Like, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, I totally get that. When you're sure you're doing what you think is the right thing and good thing to do. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what happened. So then I deep dove into it, and I made my life Islam. I said, this is what happened. I read the Quran and I'm like, well, this is God's word to us. So don't we all want to know God's word? Of course we do. I mean, we should. I mean, I do. So I convinced my younger brother as well to read the Quran and to become Sunni Muslim. I only have one brother. He's still Sunni Muslim to this day. He refused to talk to me about it, and I respect that's his decision. He doesn't like. Unfortunately, he listened to me when I told him to convert, but he didn't want to listen to me on the way out. Now he's like, he's so deep into it that he's just like, nah, I don't want to hear this. Like, sorry. So the two of us basically, we both converted to Sunni Islam, and we became very religious. And basically, my whole life became Islam. Like I said, I studied those websites. I avoided working at banks. I would try to convince other people as well who were like getting mortgages. I tried to convince my mom, because interest is haram, was forbidden in Islam. So I tried to convince her to get rid of the mortgage. And thank God she didn't, because that would have been like kind of a financial disaster if she would have listened to me. My parents were separated, and at the time anyway, so she was doing her own thing, he was doing his own thing. But Ismailism has no issue with mortgages, by the way. It was only Sunni Islam. So I was like trying to convince my mom, like, this is bad, and you can't work at a bank or any of these things. And my mom's like, get out of here. Get out of here, son. I'm not selling the house. I'm not moving out. I'm just no. So she didn't listen to me, but I was like, no, this is haram. Allah is going to be angry at us for getting a house. But she didn't listen. So yeah, so basically that's the story of how I converted. So far, any questions on that, or should I keep going?
Just keep going. I'll see the questions. You can also, if you look up to the right, you can see the questions.
Oh yeah. So then what happened was, like, I started going to different Islamic conferences, and I bought like some camera equipment, and I started recording it, and I started uploading it to my website. So whoever gave me permission, I would upload it to Light Upon Light. And the way I funded this, actually, I won't talk about that. So I created a small business to fund the website, because this is pre-YouTube, and there was no, it wasn't free back then. You had to create a website, you had to buy a server, you had to get hosting space, you had to pay for bandwidth. It was very expensive.
I remember those days.
But this was important to me, and I had people telling me you're not going to be able to do it. But I'm like, no, I'm going to do it, and I did it. And I created this website. It has like 3.5 million downloads or something.
Wow.
Again, back then, that's a lot. Okay, today it's like you can get that. The thing is, I never came on the videos, because back then I never considered that I didn't want to be the center of attention. I didn't feel like it was necessary to say, hey, look at me, I'm such a great guy. And even when I left Islam, I didn't want to come on video. The reason I ended up coming out and coming on video is because people didn't believe me. When I created the blog, so I created so when I created the blog, people kept saying, oh, this guy's fake, he's pretending, because you can't tell. It's just some guy writing on a website. So no one really knows who you are. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to come out, and I'm going to have to show my face. People know I am real. Right. So that's, again, jumping ahead. But so what happened was, eventually I got to the point where I started to have doubts in Islam. So I was already very heavily vested. I married a Muslim convert as well. She's a convert from Christianity, and she became Muslim. And we decided to create this family, for the sake of Allah, meaning we were going to have a religious family together. And there was no music allowed in my house. For the longest time, we didn't have a TV. Eventually, my mom gave us a TV, so we got it, but we didn't have any cable. Basically, we put the kids in Islamic school as well. So they were like, we were paying for like, I don't know how much it was. It was like 10,000 a year for the Islamic school we were paying. It was a lot of money, actually.
Wow.
And all of this was because Islam is the truth, and I have to make sure that I do whatever is the best for my family and all that. Right? So anyways, I started having doubts in 2014, actually. 2014, what happened was I was having a conversation with this guy on on Facebook. This guy was someone that almost became Muslim, meaning he was a Christian, a Unitarian Christian, that he found out about Islam and he almost converted to it, but he didn't. And he posted something on one of my friends' Facebook pages, and he said, oh no, but Islam, I almost became Muslim, but it's not true, or something like that, right? And I'm like, Mr. Dawa guy, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to show him, right? I'm like, I'm going to talk to this guy. So I asked him, I'm like, what do you mean it's not, like, what are you talking about, right? And he's like, yeah, I found out the Jewish stories in the Quran the basically copied, right? I'm like, yeah, that's easy. I can solve that. But I'm like, yeah, that's because the Jewish stories, they come from God, man. It's easy.
Yeah.
It's like, of course,
Like
this
all the
guy
Old
knew.
Testament shit, right?
That's what I thought. That's what I
Mm.
thought. But that's not the case.
Oh,
So he told me, no, I'm not talking about the Old Testament. He said these stories come from the Talmud. I'm like, what's the Talmud? I haven't even heard of the Talmud. He's like, it's a collection of stories of rabbis, right? It's like oral traditions.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, first of all, this is news to me. I never heard this before, right? So I looked into it and I started to find that he had a point. The stories in the Quran, a bunch of them, of course, there's a lot from the Old Testament as well. For example, Moses and all that. But there's stories from the Talmud, like, for example, the first, the two sons fighting, and then a crow came and buried, one of the, covered the other ones, the mains, and there's a bunch of stories like that from the Talmud. And so now I was like, okay, but the Talmud is not revealed. It's not revelation from God. So how did this end up in the Quran? Now I was confused, right? And that started it. Now that's not that I don't usually mention this point when I'm talking to Muslims because I think there's better points, but this is what started the journey. And then I started to look into it a little bit more, and I found that the story of Dhul Qarnayn was a bigger and more obvious problem with Islam and the Quran.
Okay.
What happened is,
myself,
so Dhul Qarnayn is this mythical king, this powerful king that's described in the Quran as having this like a lot of power and money and stuff. And he's like, I'm going to travel from the east to the west. I'm going to go from the place of sunrise. So he traveled in the Quran from the place of sunrise to the place of sunset. So right away we have a problem. What do you mean the place of sunset?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
What? Place of sunset? Sun doesn't set in a particular place. But you can imagine if you were in the 7th century and you look over the horizon and you see the sunset, just like, the leprechaun at the end of the pot of gold and the leprechaun under the rainbow. You just got to get to the end of the rainbow and there's going to be a leprechaun there, right?
Good luck with that.
But you can never reach to the end of the rainbow because it moves, right? It's as if it's like an illusion, right? It's
actually a halo. Like it's a whole circle. There is no end.
Yeah. So same thing. There's no end of the earth. Right. But apparently Dhul Qarnayn, this mighty king, he went to the end of the earth. So that's the first problem. The second problem is when he got to a people that said, oh, Dhul Qarnayn, these people Gog and Magog, and they're causing us a lot of trouble. Please help us with your power to make a big dam or a gate and to block them from bothering us. Now, again, it makes sense in the 7th century, if you believe in a flat earth, that you can kind of trap people on one corner of the earth or something, you know what I mean? Like trap them off. But if you're like
in Australia.
But in the real world, like you'd have to like encircle them. You can't just like corner them off because they could just go around or something, right? But not on a flat earth. On a flat earth, they'd be trapped, right? And there's even some maps, if you look up maps of Dhul Qarnayn, where they had like a flat disc and they showed like how he trapped them. So this was the second big problem. Where is someone said it's like a cat trying to catch a laser beam.
Yeah.
So where is this? So that was my second question that caused me a lot of doubt. I'm like, where is the gate of Dhul Qarnayn? Where is it? Because now I'm trying to think rationally, and I'm being a little bit skeptical now. I'm like, I'm not just taking this for granted. Now I'm applying my thinking skills, and I'm like, well, that was a problem. So maybe there's other problems. So let me look at this now. And then I found a way to bury my doubts. So that's what I did. I talked to some of my friends, and one guy sent me this video about it's like hollow earth or something, and they're like hiding in the earth. I don't know. It was silly, but I wanted to be Muslim.
Right.
So I'm like, I talked to my wife about it. Talked to my friends. They're like, just be Muslim, man. Allah is great, and this and that. And I'm like, okay, just forget this stuff.
That's all.
So I became Muslim.
Be Muslim. Is like,
I just said, you know what? I'm just gonna bury my doubts, and that's what I did. Gotcha. I literally said, forget about all this stuff I was reading. I'm just gonna be Muslim again, and I decided to be Muslim. And the doubt was like it wasn't strong enough that I was certain that Islam is false. I still had more faith in Islam at this point.
Mhm.
So I was able to do that. I had a little bit of issue, but still I had a lot of faith from before. So I'm like, yeah, the faith overcame the doubts. And so I remained Muslim for one more year.
Mhm.
The next year, so this is 2014. In 2015, that's when the dam of Dulkarnain broke free and Gog and Magog came up. So basically what happened was this time, I was triggered by something else. I was triggered by the science in the Quran. So I was in a halaqah, like what do you call it? Like it's Ramadan. We were going to break fast at the mosque because they had food at the mosque. And before the breaking of the fast, they would give you a little lecture, right? And every day, what they would do is they would try to cover a specific part of the Quran that was being covered, that would probably be read during the Taraweeh prayer after in the evening, basically the night prayer. So every night in Ramadan, they would read 1/30 of the Quran. They would try to, so they can cover the whole Quran in 1 month.
Wow.
So before that, before breaking the fast, they would like explain to you, this is what we're going to talk about, and this is the verses and whatever. So that's what happened. And the Imam's name was Sheikh Dawood Butt. And Sheikh Dawood Butt, he was mentioning about certain things that I kind of had trouble with, which was, he said, well, Allah says the sky is held up with pillars that you can't see. And, these dumb scientists, they think they're so smart, this and that. Yeah, but somehow this was already bothering me from before, but I had blocked it. It came back. It all came back to me. I'm like, oh my God, this doesn't make sense. This isn't right. Something is wrong here. It feels wrong. Am I believing in a religion that's made up? Am I really and so I'm like, I gotta find out. I have to find out. So I went home and I started to really, really dig deep and try to find out whatever I could. I looked more into Dulkarnain, and as I started to look into Dulkarnain, I started to find even more problems.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Dulkarnain, the story of Dulkarnain matches point for point the Alexander Syriac romance. Alexander the Great.
Oh, wow.
Alexander the Great. Point for point. And Alexander, was he a monotheist? Was he a Muslim?
I don't know, actually.
He wasn't. He was a pagan. He worshipped many gods.
Yeah, right. Okay.
He's a polytheist, right?
Yeah.
So that's boom, that's a big problem. Muslims would say, no, but Dulkarnain is not Alexander the Great. Well, then how do you explain that Alexander the Great in the Syriac romance built this dam of copper and iron? He went to the place of sunrise. He went to the place of sunset. The place of sunset. I'm laughing even as I say it. Of course, that same surah in the Quran has another famous mistake where it says he saw the sun go into a murky pool. I mean, that's another mistake altogether. I mean,
yeah, how can that even happen?
It just became so many mistakes one after another that I was just like, I started posting on Facebook. And so I started posting on Facebook. I'm like, well, I'm going to share what I'm learning, right? The embryology in the Quran is not a miracle like I thought it was. The science in the Quran is actually wrong. Dulkarnain is made up, and it's actually Alexander the Great, and Alexander the Great cannot be a Muslim by any means. It's just a copied story. And on and on. And people started to get worried. Some of my friends were like, is he doing a social experiment? Why is he posting that he's not all these bad things, right? And so a lot of my friends, when they finally realized that I wasn't joking around, I was serious, they were like, you should delete all your posts. You should go talk to Imam. Wow. Go talk to the Imam. Don't post on Facebook. You're going to cause doubt in the community. The same thing that we see right now when this famous, this big TikToker left Islam just recently. And they're all telling him, oh, no, why were you posting it online? You have doubts. It's shame on you. You should not be talking about that. And you should be, keeping it to yourself or going to an imam and this and that, or talk to us privately, but don't post it. Don't post it publicly. And someone's saying for some reason your live stopped on TikTok. Yeah, I got someone flagged it as copyright strike or something stupid like that.
Really?
So I'll have to appeal it. Yeah, this is the second time it happened. I stream on TikTok and someone will claim that I'm breaking copyright. I thought it would only happen once. But apparently it happens multiple times, which is, like I said, TikTok isn't the best platform for streaming anyways, but
Right.
it's fine. Like I said, it's an experiment. So anyways, so at this point now I started to really like get exposure to other Muslims and challenging me, right?
Mhm.
And so I decided, I think my wife told me, why don't you make a blog? Because you keep basically like you keep saying the same thing over and over again. You're always saying the same, well, this is the issue I have. And they come up with something. And you're like, well, no, that doesn't make sense. And then you say it again. So why not just make a blog? So I made a blog. And I even went to, I talked to a sheikh, what's his name? Musleh Khan, I think. One of the sheikhs of Al-Maghrib, one of these big Islamic seminars. I talked to him on the phone. I talked to one of my friends who I studied at university with, who is actually a professor of Islamic history in the US. Okay. I spoke to my Muslim friends. I talked to like tons of people. Basically, I did whatever. Oh yeah, and also a Sufi sheikh. So I was in the opposite of Sufism, which is like Salafism, which is basically also known as Wahhabism, the Saudi, leaning version of Islam with the no music and all that. That's the one I was in. But one of my friends was like, come to the Sufi mosque because, maybe they'll have a different perspective. And so I'm like, well, I can, yeah, sure, why not? Even though I thought Sufism was kind of messed up, but I'm like, yeah, let me try that. And
well, at least you were fair.
Yeah, I mean, I said, you know what, let me give it a chance. And I think that's one thing that most Muslims don't understand, that most ex-Muslims are trying to stay Muslim. They're not trying to leave Islam.
Right.
So, we were trying. I was trying to remain Muslim. I just couldn't. Because at the end of the day, nobody had any good answers for these things. And what I found out was most of these sheikhs and whatever, these people, they're not even equipped to talk about these things. They're not at all, like, they don't have exposure to these doubts and whatever, right? Like they're not. So when you talk to an imam, like the Sufi guy, and some of the things I told him, I'm like, well, weren't the people at the time of Muhammad, didn't they believe in a flat earth? And he got mad at me. He's like, how dare you say that and this and that? And I'm like, what? Like, come on, it's 7th century. That's what they believed in at the time in that place. So I said, if the Quran is implying a flat earth, then probably it's talking about a flat earth, right? But he got angry at me and he's like, oh, how dare you say that? And my friend who invited me to talk to that Sufi sheikh, he told me after, he's like, yeah, you're right. They did believe in a flat earth back then at that time in that place.
Many did, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously there were centers of learning, like the Greek philosophers who had better knowledge than Muhammad did, and they understood the earth was not flat. But Muhammad is quite clear in the backwaters of Arabia that he knew, or he thought the earth was flat. It was just, I mean, what else would they have thought, right? I mean, that's what most people thought that at the time, right?
Well, the Greeks were the first to do the experiment to discover that the earth was not flat. Right?
Exactly, yeah. But that hadn't reached Arabia. That's the problem, right?
Right.
And there's no indication, if you read the Quran, even if you think about the whole idea of like facing the Kaaba or Mecca, like on a globe, you'll be facing into space. You're not facing it unless it's a flat earth, then you can face it from somewhere at all times. But if you're on a globe, half of the people are like pointing into outer space,
shooting off into space. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
I know, it's kind of funny, that one always struck me as a little bit comedic.
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically what happened. I at that point I decided that I'm gonna come out fully, and I'm going to come out on video. Eventually I came out on video. I made my first video. It went viral, and it just went from there. I mean, it kept, like the first video got like 100,000 views in a short amount of time.
Wow.
And now it's at like over 1 million views, 1.4 million or something. But like it did really well. And I guess people wanted to hear about other people's stories. I guess there's still there's a lot of people out there that are also having doubts, that are also questioning Islam. Absolutely. And they need someone to talk to, right? So it's one of those things where you never expected to be that person that's doing that thing, but it just happens, and you just end up filling a role that was, I guess, meant for you in some way,
Yeah, absolutely. And you do basically a similar thing to what I do as well, where you talk to people about how they kind of fell out of their belief systems as well. And I think
Yeah.
that what you and I do is very important because of exactly what you said about people out there who possibly have these doubts and also don't realize that there is a community of us out there that will get you, or not get you, but will get your back. That will have your back.
Yeah.
You can land safely here, and all will be good, because there's a lot of folks here that have been through what you're going through and can relate to you and can be here for you when you need a shoulder or something.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a tough journey out of faith. Right? It's never easy. Some people have it way more tough than others. They lose, connection with the family. Some people, the wives will leave them. In Islam, a Muslim woman is not allowed to be with a non-Muslim man. So in my case, she didn't leave me, which is good. But like, it could have happened another way. Like, I mean, I know some cases that it just breaks up. It's just not possible to reconcile.
Right.
And, there's obviously a lot of factors that determine that, like your family, your in-laws basically can be a big part of that. My in-laws are not Muslim. They're Christian, right? So they don't even care that I left Islam. They're happy. They're like, hey, normal life. This guy can eat Big Macs or whatever. Like, they don't, you know what I mean? They don't care. Like, I go over there, I can have the ribs, I don't have to have the halal, because before we would have to have like the halal plate and like the haram plate or something. Like you have to cook two different sets of dishes because we had to have the halal chicken, right? And so, yeah,
you can eat whatever you want.
yeah, eat whatever you want, do whatever you want. We're not limited by this invisible God, and we have to fast this whole month or whatever. Because I remember once I went to see my in-laws in Ramadan, and that wasn't fun because we were fasting all day, and it's like, oh my God,
yeah, that sucks. I need to eat. I like
eating. Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Fasting once in a while can actually be good for you. Helps you kind of cleanse out a little bit. But other than that, I don't need to be fasting all the time. Fuck that shit. I need to go have a Whopper or a pizza or a fucking, whatever, a thing full of like 900 tacos or something like that. I need to go and have my food. I like eating.
Yeah, the Islamic fast as well is a dry fast, so there's no water even.
That's right. I know. I worked with
I'm pretty sure that even if there's some sort of benefits of doing the fasting, I'm sure the lack of water it's not the best thing to do,
Not good. You can actually go longer without food than you can without water. I think it's 3 days without water, and you can go like up to a week and something without food. But that would suck. So no. I mean, I drink water too. There's water in my beer. No, I do actually drink water too. So some questions that I have for you. What is your relationship now like with your family, like your folks?
So, okay, that's a good. So lucky. I'm one of the unique ones out there that I don't have a very religious family. So my mom is not really religious, and my dad was not religious at all. My dad passed away. So my mom was like, yeah, well, when I told her I don't believe in God anymore, she's like, well, I believe in God, and I think God helps me to, when I'm having a tough time, I pray to God, and God helps me in his own way. And I'm like, well, I personally don't believe God helps anybody at all, but that's, and she's like, yeah, it's up to you, whatever. I don't think she thinks I'm going to go to hell, anything like that. Like, I don't think she believes half of that stuff. So maybe in some ways she's agnostic too. My dad used to joke that we don't even know what Allah is. Allah could be a black man. We don't know, what God is. We can't, you can't, because I used to get mad at him for saying that. I used to be like, no, Allah is described in the Quran as this and this. He's like, yeah, but how do you know? And he used to say this, how do you know? I'm like, no, we do know. The Quran is his last revelation, right? And he's like, nah. So, he didn't care. My brother, of course, is, like I said, a very religious guy. So that didn't help the relationship with him. I have a few family members, the extended family members, like aunties and uncles that are religious, but most of the family is very like easygoing. So I was lucky. I didn't have any major pushback. Excuse me. I don't think they like the fact that I have a YouTube channel and I talk about Islam, but they're pretty easygoing. So they don't really bother me about it,
Tons of mice seems to think that Allah is a purple panda.
There's in terms of my like my wife and my kids, obviously my wife, like I told you, she stayed with me. She's like, I don't really talk about her too much because she prefers I don't. My kids were okay as well. I mean, and I think in some ways they were young enough so that from their perspective they're better off because they don't have to do all this praying and they can listen to music. And you know, they have, like we have a Spotify membership now. I never would have got them that before, you know. So they can watch cartoons. I mean, it's not like the devil's work anymore, trying to brainwash that. Like, you know, they have a normal life, you know. And obviously, like some of my family members are worried that, oh my God, your kids are gonna do drugs and they're gonna be like all the, you know, like those type of things they worry about because they think Islam stops people from doing that, even though it doesn't. Like Muslim kids do those things too. Right? Muslim kids
keep it on the down low.
Exactly. Muslim kids do all those things. They're going to clubs and they're drinking and they're doing all that stuff. It doesn't stop. It stops some kids, but it's not like, you know, it depends on a kid's personality, right? So that's not even an issue. But yeah, so the family's been good overall. I'm happy that I was able to keep the family together and that it didn't break up the family, which was a worry. But I think in my case, what I had going in my favor was, like I told you, the in-laws were not a pressure point. And in-laws, normally what I hear is in-laws are the ones that pressure the woman to leave the man, the Muslim woman. So I'll give you an example. I'm trying to think, who was this? So recently, yeah. Okay, I remember. I read this. Okay. So I can't say who it is, but recently I read a story about a guy that left Islam. His wife found out, or he told his wife, and she promised to keep it between them. But what ended up happening was she told her, like someone in her family, I think her brothers, and they advised her to start sleeping in a different room. And he didn't know any of this. So first she started sleeping in a different room. And then she said, hey, I want to take the kids to Pakistan. And he's like, why? They have school. She's like, oh, I want to see my family. She came up with some excuse, right? He's like, no, we're not going to Pakistan now. We're like in the middle of the year, whatever, the pandemic. And then he found out that she was trying to sneak the kids out of the country.
Oh, wow.
And like basically kidnap the kids, you can say. I mean, that's kidnapping, basically, right? So she was trying to, her family told her, run away to Pakistan. He's in the US or Canada. And oh my God, when I read that, I was like so sad, like to see that this is what. So now he's obviously, now that he found out what happened, he's going through some legal processes and they're going to try to get the passports of the kids taken away so that they can't leave the country, because you're not allowed to do shit like that. You can't run away. You know, even if you break up, both parents need to have access to the children. You can't just run away to another country. Of course, if she did that, he would probably never see his kids again. I mean, that's it. It's done, right?
A question from one of the Facebook viewers, my friend Deborah Laser, wanted to know, do the children miss out on learning about the holidays and customs so they don't feel so they don't feel different from their cousins, I guess?
So yeah, the good thing is we still celebrate Eid. So every Eid I go to visit my mom and or my aunties. We have a big extended gathering, and so that continues. We just don't do the fasting anymore. So yeah, they don't miss out on that. Other than the two Eids, there's not really much else that there's really like religious customs. I mean, one thing that we still do is I still use what's called a lota, and anyone who is in the Desi community would know that's like a thing used to wash your ass after you take a dump. So like a bidet. Yeah, bidet. Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing from Islam we still do. Trying to think, is there anything else? I don't think so. I don't think there's anything else that we do that's sort of Islamic like values. That's about it. And Eid, I guess.
Right. But I mean, you know, I was raised. My story is a little bit unique too. I was adopted as a baby. I was born to a Christian couple. I was conceived in the back of a 57 Chevy Bel Air hardtop two-door, apparently, which is awesome. But of course, they were my biological dad was his mother's very staunch Catholic, and you just didn't do that in Catholicism, right? So I was put up for adoption, and I was raised as a Jewish kid.
Wow!
Right. So I was raised as a Jew, and I remember myself being quite I didn't, it all sounded like mythology to me, even through Hebrew school. And Deborah, actually, who's watching on Facebook, can attest to this. I found myself in the hallway quite a bit for asking questions that they weren't comfortable with. But I still had a God belief of some kind, because I remember talking to him and asking for favors, like, oh, make sure my friend gets better from the cold or whatever the hell he had, or something along those lines, right? But eventually, I say by the time I started studying more and more of the Torah and practicing for my bar mitzvah at the age of 13, none of it just made sense. And I didn't really talk about it. I just had that thought in my, this is garbage. This is not true. This can't be true. There's so much shit in here that doesn't match with reality that it's unbelievable. So eventually, slowly but surely, I found my way out of that, and I became a pagan for a while. I was a Wiccan for a while. All these little steps here and there. But ultimately, finally, by probably my early 40s, I'm like, no, you know what? Fuck this. All this is just garbage. I'm an atheist. That's all there is to it. I don't believe in any of this bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? It's just mythology to me. All religions to me now are just basically mythology.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, there have been hundreds of thousands of gods, right? They all can't be true. How about more likely none of them are?
Or maybe just Allah still.
Of course. So, what prompted you to want to start your channel?
Yeah, so I think it's just my personality. I have a big mouth.
Yeah, but you're a lot of fun, man. So, and you're
yeah,
a smart guy, right? So,
no, I mean, I'm being fast shit. I'm taking the piss. Basically. Facetious. Yeah, I was taking the piss. Basically, the reason why I wanted to start a channel was because I felt responsible. I had this Light Upon Light website. I know people that in my own life I convinced to become better than Muslims. Or I don't think anyone ever converted to Islam because of me, but I know a lot of Muslims. Like one guy, I was so disappointed. Anyways, long story, but one guy gave up his job selling mortgages because of me, which I was sad. Really? I was sad about it. I mean, not just me, but I mean a bunch of us. But so we were in the mosque in Ramadan, and in the basement we were chatting, and this guy was a real estate agent, and he was one of the best. He was making, I don't know if he was making millions of bucks, but he was on his way to making millions of bucks.
Right.
He was doing a good service for the community, the Muslim community. He was helping people sell their houses at good value, whatever. He was doing good stuff. We were telling him that you shouldn't help them get a mortgage. You can sell the houses, but just don't get them a mortgage, because mortgages are haram.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, nah, listen, that's not even the main part of my job. But if I don't get them a mortgage, they're not going to buy the house. That's part of the job, right? And then I met him now. I met him a couple of years ago after leaving Islam. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? Guy was wearing this big white thobe, dress. He had a big beard, and he was very Muslim looking, right? And I'm like, what's going on, man? You remember me? I left Islam. What are you doing? He's like, yeah, I dropped out of real estate. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, all because of the mortgages. I'm like, what? I was like, I felt bad because I was part of, the guys that were trying to convince him not to do it. I don't think I ever intended for him to leave it, but he's like, yeah, I teach at Islamic school or something. I'm like, oh, come on. Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
And I felt bad for them. And other people, my brother became more religious because of me, or he converted. Actually, I guess my brother would be the one person I converted, truly speaking. And, I was trying to get my mom to wear the hijab. She, so I felt responsible. I feel responsible that I contributed to this false religion being promoted, and I'm like, I need to do something about that. And what can I do? What can I actually thought naively that it's as simple as showing people the mistakes in the Quran and they'll leave Islam. I didn't realize that people are so dogmatically attached to it, because I know I left Islam. If I would have found my own blog, if someone created my blog, just gave it a different name, and I read it, I would have been convinced, because I was looking for evidence and I was open to the truth. A lot of people maybe not at that point yet where they're able to basically question, and so maybe if it came to them they wouldn't be able to. But I was the type of guy that when that guy told me he almost became Muslim and he gave me some points to think about, I was like, this makes sense. What do I do now? Right? So But it's been a lot harder than I thought. I didn't realize until now that this is actually quite a difficult thing for people to unbrainwash themselves, unindoctrinate. Is it a word like that?
That works, sure.
Yeah. Unindoctrinate. Yeah. So getting people to unindoctrinate themselves is damn tough, wouldn't you say? Like,
it can be. It can be. I think in my case, I didn't really fall so much for some of it.
Yeah, you seem to be more skeptically minded in general, because I think what I've come to believe is that our brains are wired differently, and some people have more dopamine, and they're more likely to be believers. There's actually an article on Aeon called "The Dopamine Switch," or the dopamine. Basically, it's all about how a lot of these believers in the past, they believe they had a very high dopamine levels, and there's even a study that shows that people that have higher dopamine levels tend to, when you show them like an abstract painting or something, they tend to see more shapes in the painting. The pattern matching is at a higher, it's more active.
Like a Pareidolia effect sort of thing.
Yeah, is that when you see, like, yeah, exactly,
shapes that aren't really there, like a bunny that looks like a cloud that looks like a bunny, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes, and they found other people are less likely to find, and those people tend to be more skeptics. So I think you ended up being one of the skeptics. And again, that comes back to, like, why would God do that? Why would God wire people to be skeptics like you, just to end up, just for you to end up going to hell? Like, we have a scientific basis now to understand why people think differently, and people that have higher dopamine levels, it's harder to convince them.
More.
Yeah, it's harder to convince them because they see all of these connections, and they're like connecting it together, and they're also more likely to be conspiracy theorists because they're making connections that aren't true to be true, right?
True enough. They're all fucking Deepak Chopras or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Shut up, Deepak. You don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, seriously, one of the things that really what settled it for me, when because you think about all the tragedies that have happened in Earth's history over the gazillion years that we've been here. I know that's an exaggeration, kids. I'm kidding. But like, if God is as they ascribe to in any of the scriptures, really, if he is all-knowing, then this entire thing is a setup. Because he already knew everything that was going to ever happen out throughout our history, ever. He knew the Holocaust was going to happen. He knew the Crusades would happen. He knew the Inquisition would happen. He knew that there would be these psychopath dictators in Africa cutting off the arms of children. He knew that 9 million children on average every year were going to die in some horrific way. He knew that the Katrina wave was going to happen. He knew that the big wave from the tsunami or whatever in Japan was going to happen. He knew everything that was going to happen, yet he still went ahead with this plan. He knew I would become an atheist well before I was born. So what the fuck? So that's like if he knew all of this, then why? Like, that's the biggest thing I think that was the biggest linchpin for me was he can't exist. There's no fucking possible way. Because if he's all-knowing, then he already knew all those atrocities would happen, and he did nothing. He knew ahead of time that thousands and thousands of clergy from different belief systems would be raping and molesting children. He knew it. He knew it was going to happen. But he did nothing to stop it. If I knew that a kid was going to be treated that way, I'd fucking step in, even at the risk of my own life.
Yeah.
Which makes, and I'm sure you would too, and it makes us more moral than this dickhead that everyone apparently thinks is real. I hate to break it to you kids. It's highly unlikely.
Either he doesn't exist, or he's impotent, or he's evil. And in neither case is he the god of, the classical god of theism, because classical god of theism is omnipotent, all-knowing, all-powerful, and
Oh yeah, P goes, but free will. The free will argument does not work for that one, P. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There are multiple reasons as to why. First of all, now neuroscience kind of is on the on the fence about whether or not we actually have free will as described in the Bible.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no such thing as libertarian free will, right?
Yeah, no, I know. Try telling that to a libertarian, but anyway, I think we do we sort of trick ourselves that we do have a sense of free will, because I think we do to a degree, because our brains sort of pizza mod everywhere, Abdullah. Our brains already make decisions before we're aware of it, but those decisions are based on past preferences. Let's not forget that. So you can kind of sort of loop it down around itself, and it's sort of a version of free will. Because
it's possible,
So
I tend to think that that everything is a consequence of genes plus experiences plus so basically I think if you took my atoms, the exact same atoms, and you put them in the exact same place, I would do the exact same thing all over again. I think there's no randomness at all, and at that level of a brain. That's what I think. Sure.
I'm on board with that. Oh shit, I was going to say something. My brain just went, nope, I'm going to make you forget. Anyway, it probably wasn't all that important anyways. But so your very first video that you put up, was that sort of the one that you were just dying to get up there so that people could actually hear your perspective on everything?
Yeah, it was kind of I wasn't planning to, how do I say this? I didn't have a script. It was just like, I wanted to like share my story. And so I took my phone, and I was holding my phone in the sun. I was like sweating. There's like planes flying overhead. I was on my lunch break at the office, and I'm like, yeah, this is what happened to me. And I uploaded, I'm like, boom, and just went like crazy. But no, yeah, I did want to get it out. I wanted people to know, and I didn't know there was such a thing as ex-Muslims at the time. I didn't know there was a movement at all. And it was after that I found out about ex-Muslims of North America, and I joined that community, and I became part of that thing. But in terms of I wanted people to know, and I wanted to, like I said, I have a loud mouth. I like to talk, and I like to share my ideas. I had never done that before. I kind of wish I did have like an online presence with my face before I left Islam, because then a lot more people would have known me. But people didn't know me as well. They didn't know me, but they knew about my work. They knew about verse by verse Quran, about light upon light. So when like I've heard from people say, like recently, this one ex-Muslim woman told me, "Oh, you made light upon light? I used to use that website." Right? And there's this so like a lot of people know the website I made, but they don't know me because my name, my face wasn't anywhere on there, because I was doing it for the sake of Allah. I didn't want anyone to know. So, but if the ex-Muslim situation wasn't as like bad as it is, meaning like it wasn't as difficult, then I probably wouldn't have even come on camera. I would have been like, yeah, I have a blog and it's fine. But the fact is, it's definitely a David versus Goliath situation. You have like all of this massive dawah machines. You have Bayina, Aida, Zakir Naik's Peace TV. You have all of these multi-million-dollar organizations pushing against like basically people that are saying Islam is false, and they have like unlimited resources, unlimited time, unlimited money, pretty much unlimited money to create content and now that we've become a threat, they've started creating content to target atheism, which I don't think is going to work, but they are trying. Like they're trying to combat the wave, the tsunami of atheism that is happening in the community right now.
If you're wondering what the hell the hashtag coins thing is,
what is that?
My phone, I for the notifications, I have the Mario when he goes and gets a coin, right? So every time it goes off, because it goes off quite a bit, we've turned it into a drinking game. So every time the hashtag coin goes off, everyone's supposed to take a drink.
Oh, okay. Have a drink of that.
And then, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these little beer cozies with the hashtag coins on them.
Oh yeah, nice.
For the merch store, which should be fun.
Awesome.
So what do you think? What are you going to change directions on your channel at all anytime soon, or do you think you'll stick sort of with the formula that you have?
Yeah, I mean, thinking it's time to return to Allah. It's been a good run being an ex-Muslim, but it's time to become Muslim again. I'm going to say my Shahada. I want to apologize to the Muslim community. My dear brothers, I will join you again in faith one day, inshallah. And I will become the big imam of Islam. I will be Muslim of Canada, Muslim imam of Canada. You guys will come to my masjid. You will donate. I'm just kidding.
You can still do that.
Yeah.
By the way, he has a Patreon, guys, and the link is below.
Yeah, it's all good. Don't worry. No, you should support the channel. Don't support me. Support Neil.
Oh,
Which way do I point? This way? It's
it's the opposite. So just imagine. Oh yeah.
No, I'm just being cheeky. No, like I think that what I'm gonna do now is I've started using like friendly ex-Muslim more, just because that's easier to remember than Abdullah Samir. So sure. I really liked, and I had like a little thing where I created a poll with a couple of different ideas, and friendly ex-Muslim won. So
I think I participated in that one.
I'm sorry?
I think I participated.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, the name sticks, I guess, and I'm gonna redo the blog as well. So it's gonna be friendlyexmuslim.com. And awesome. Whatever gets the message out better, right, and more efficiently, I think is important, right? I was always wishing when I started this that I would have created like a name like Cosmic Skeptic or one of those cool like names, and I never did, right? I just said Abdullah Samir, and it has its downsides because it's harder for people to remember that, I think, especially if you're not familiar with the name Abdullah or whatever. So yeah, I think other than that, there's a whole TikTok thing as someone was mentioning in the discussion that I just got kicked off doing the live stream on TikTok now for the second time.
Somebody annoying. Must be complaining about it. That's
I lost the main channel, YouTube channel I have. I mean, I still have it, but it's like completely demonetized now. I'm almost at 6. Yeah, so basically I'm at like 57,000 subscribers on Abdullah Samir. Yeah, but I got like a strike and it's completely demonetized. I tried my best to talk to YouTube and they don't care. There's not like, you're not able to reach them basically. Like if you reach them, they're just like, it's just like talking to like a wall. They have this like, nope, hate speech. Nope, that's too bad. That's it. I'm like, well, it wasn't really hate speech. It was like, it was a test video. This, nope. They don't care. No one saw it. They don't care. All they care about is like, I think unless you have like 1 million subscribers, then they might actually care. But at the level of 50,000, 60,000, I don't think you're big enough for them to even notice. There's probably millions of channels with 50,000 subs. So you're just like a drop in the bucket to them. And
I'm not one of them.
They just don't care. If you're less than, I think if you're even like bigger channels like David Wood, he's been like hit with like content strikes on the most ridiculous videos. Like, and even him, like with 500,000 subs, he's still like, on the bad side. So I don't think, at this point, it's just an uphill battle, like, so I started a new channel now. It's called Friendly Ex-Muslim. It has like 8,000 subs. So it's growing, it's getting there, but it's still a long way to go just to catch up to where I was.
Oh, hold on. So you have another, I think I only linked one of your YouTube channels. I think I linked your original.
That's the channel I use now. Yeah, the Friendly Ex-Muslim channel, because the other channel is dead in the water. I don't have any super chats. There's no channel memberships, and I'm not monetized at all. So it really cripples the channel. Like it means that all of my hard work, I cannot make a penny on it, right? So that just makes it tougher. So I think my goal now is to grow a team. So I'm taking the money that I'm making and I'm using it to hire people to help me to do more, because I have a full-time job. Like this is
me too. That's why I got Mike in here.
Yeah, so you know how it feels, right? So I'm using that money now. Most of my new videos you'll see are subtitled. I have a guy in India that's actually working for me that does the subtitles. That does the subtitles and like posts them to my blog as well. A lot of the stuff that I don't have time to do because there's only so much I can do. I have a guy that helps me doing research and writing scripts, but still, instead of taking like 10 hours per video, then I can do it in like 5, So that's kind of like, that's where the money is helpful. And of course, it just helps having money. I mean, everyone needs money, I guess. So
of course.
That's part of it for sure,
Of course, that's where our society works. We are a monetary-based society. And before we bring this discussion to a close, we are going to jump to an after party, and I'm going to drag my producer in here right now.
Oh, hey. What's up, YouTube? How y'all doing? And Facebook. Hi, Facebook people.
Yeah, I figured I'd give it a shot on the Facebook. I did a poll there on the Facebook, said, would you guys actually pay attention if I streamed on Facebook? And I got a lot of yeses. So I figured, yeah, okay, let's do that.
We got 6 people watching over there with some good friends of yours. Deborah is there, and Matthew.
Deborah's actually, Matthew Randall's actually in YouTube now.
Oh,
but
damn it,
Deborah's actually a lifelong friend. I've known her since we were like little wee shavers. So I've known her forever. Like basically we were raised in diapers together until we became adults. And well, now she lives in Colorado. So where weed is also legal. So that's good.
I'm noticing a trend.
Yeah. I don't even think she partakes. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, Abdullah, man, we've done the hour. So I want to thank you, like huge thank you for jumping in, man, because you're definitely one of my favorite content creators out there that does, something similar to what I do and for the good of the community, man. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, you're most welcome. Now that I've heard a little bit of your story, maybe you can come at some time and talk about your deconversion. It'd be interesting.
I would love to, man. I would absolutely love to. Just we'll stay in touch and we'll get it set up. And I would absolutely love to. I think it'd be a fun time to do that for sure. Actually, we did it on my channel as well. We did mine, but we kind of reversed the roles. My friend Randolph, who by the way is the president of Canadian Atheists, he interviewed me on my channel to tell my story.
Nice,
yeah, which is kind of cool. But I'm up for it anytime. Anytime I can get it out there is all good, especially on multiple platforms. Because I think like I said earlier, these stories are important to have out there.
What's your Facebook page called? Is it on a page or your personal?
It's on my personal page because I'm all out of let me just double check. Here's my bag of fucks. Yeah, no, I'm all out of it. So I don't care. Lots of people aren't gonna like the fact that I do that especially some family members, but they can live with it. They can live with it. I'm an adult. I'm an adult now. There's some Canadiana for you right there. Mo Berg and the Pursuit of Happiness. That's the name of that band. All right, so
good name.
Yeah. Thanks again, man. And thank you to everyone in the chat for hanging out with us. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's show. Thanks to my wonderful producer, Mr. Mikey Famine, right there, for being the awesome dude that he is.
Thanks, Neil.
And you got a thank you from Jen and Miu there, Abdullah, saying thank you for sharing your story with us.
No worries.
Jen is another one of my favorite humans. All right, so basically, guys, we are going to do an after party. There is a link to that after party in the description box below. And don't forget, guys, I want to make a huge shout out to my patrons. Because you guys, get on it. Stop eating, Mike.
I'm so hungry. I just got home.
I know. I'm bugging you, buddy. I'm bugging you. It's because of you guys that the show keeps going and improving, hopefully. Also, don't forget that Randolph and I are going to be doing our own call-in show coming up pretty soon. We're hoping. We still got to finish building the studio. And it's called True North Talk. If you haven't heard about it, which I'm sure you have because I never stopped talking about it. But anyways, go over to the True North Talk channel and give it a sub there as well. And don't forget that the lovely Miss Jenna Miu over in the chat there, and myself and Mr. Mikey here, who's been a guest on there as well. We are all sort of new hosts for the revamped and relaunched nonprofit show, one of the ACA products. So head over to the nonprofits and give them a sub as well. And the last Saturday of every month, my friend Andy, who's Andy Hall from Laughing in Disbelief, and my friend Seamus from the Free Thought Prophet. Yeah, that's the one. Free Thought Prophet. I can't even speak anymore. His show. And we get together at the last Saturday of every month and bring up some topics and have a lot of fun. We had Mikey with us as our guest for the last one. And the show is called Atheist Drinking Out Loud. So head over to the not the Free Thought Prophet. Head over to the Faith Laughing in Disbelief channel. God, my thoughts are all scrambled right now.
I was going to help, but you got it.
Yeah, the Laughing in Disbelief channel, and give them a sub, and you can be able to check us out being drunken idiots every last Saturday of every month. All right, guys. If you, like I said below, if you check out, there is a link to the after party if you want to go hang out with us there. If you're interested in joining us for the after party, please feel free to let Mikey know or myself through either Twitter or Facebook if you're not on Twitter, and we'll give you a link and you can hang out. Abdullah says he's going to jump in there for us for a little while, but he's a family guy, so he's got responsibilities, but he'll hang out for a bit. and say hello to some folks who might have some questions that they didn't get out there. So let me know, please, and we'll get you guys in there. And until next time, guys, like I always say at the end of these interviews, like the late, great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we'll see you guys next time.